Hi, I'm Hisnara, the editor of CheekyLittleCareers.com. For this video, I'm delighted to say that I've been joined by my mentee, Robert Greene, who will be joining the London office of elite US law firm Skadden Arps as a trainee solicitor later this year. Robert and I got chatting to each other just over a year ago when he was gearing up to do not just one, but three vacation schemes, which he successfully managed to convert into true training contract offers, including one from Skadden's. Want to know how? Then do continue watching, because Robert is going to reveal everything you need to know about how to convert those all important VAC schemes into TC offers.
There's definitely some things I would love to share with other people, which I found really useful, and I think would really benefit anyone who's going into it, because I certainly hadn't done any vacation schemes this time last year, let alone secure a training contract. So I know it can be a really daunting experience for future trainees.
No, absolutely. So when we recorded a similar series of videos, I was sharing the advice, as you said, and the first thing we talked about really was what to expect, because as you said, that you'd not really stepped inside a law firm up until that point, and even then you were doing your schemes virtually. I appreciate that some firms may do them in person, which is fantastic. What was the format of the Skadden's VAC scheme?
Essentially, we had 2 weeks in two different seats, and we were allowed to choose our seats, which was great. And I got my first two choices. We were really treated like trainees, I would say. We were given real tasks, working with real clients. So it was really like a full-on experience of what it would be like to be a trainee there. We also had lots of social events as well. It was Pride Month when I was there at Skadden, so there was like a Pride quiz. There were talks from LGBT people in the firm. So we got a real good flavor of sort of the social side of things as well as the work. So yeah, it was a real kind of mix, but I would say it was the most representative vacation scheme from my perspective anyway of what it would be like to be a trainee in the firm.
And were you assigned a supervisor, so to speak, like you would do as a trainee?
Yeah, we were, for each seat you were given a supervisor, and so they would give you work, they would give you feedback at the end of the week. You also had a trainee buddy, so somebody who was a trainee at the time. They're actually now qualified, at least my buddy was. But they were great. They were able to give you sort of the lowdown on what it's really like to be a trainee, things you need to watch out for, questions I suppose you mightn't want to necessarily ask your supervisor because they're very busy. You could go to your trainee buddy for that.
And how was it in terms of, doing the work? Did you feel at all out of your depth, or was it, did they give you clear instructions, and did you feel quite confident approaching the jobs you were given to do?
So I did litigation and arbitration one week, and then the next week I did employment law. But having an interest in something isn't the same as necessarily having the practical knowledge and skills. So when you're given a task and you don't really have any groundwork or any foundations, it can be quite daunting. I think you gave me this tip, and this really did stick with me when I was there. Ask for instructions and then almost repeat back to your supervisor or whoever's giving you the task what they've asked you to do, just to be really clear about what it is they're expecting from you. What format would you like it? Would you like it as a Word? Would you like it as a PDF? Is there a particular font you like? Which might seem a little bit, anal, but I just wanted to be really sure that, what I was delivering was what I was being asked for. Because you can imagine, like, if somebody's really, stressed or, also dealing with like loads of clients and loads of different trainees, they might just assume you understand and you know what to do. So asking those questions, I think, is really what helped me at least get over that initial sort of part of like, what am I actually supposed to do? Obviously, there are tasks that are more challenging than others, but I don't think there was anything that we were given that was completely out of our depth.
I think that's a brilliant tip, and I still stand by it. And can I let you into a secret? It's still relevant when you're a trainee. Getting that clarity when you're taking instructions from a colleague or indeed a client is absolutely paramount. And I like the point you made about, asking whether you want it in a PDF, into a Word doc, or do you want an Excel spreadsheet? Because the deliverable, the clearer the instructions, the better the quality that is going to be. And that's how you impress, I think. And what about the sort of work or exercises away from the actual sort of department that you were sat in?
We had some teamwork exercises. So we were split into 2 groups, and we had a research task and then presented that task to some of the partners and associates. We also had an interview, a formal interview as part of our vacation scheme. I think that was at the end of the first week. Then on top of that, we had sort of networking sessions, and whilst they're obviously not formally assessed, they are an opportunity for you to sort of, show your interest in the firm, ask questions, about different topics and different practice areas that, you're interested in.
Networking is my pet topic, and I think it's so key, but there are right and wrong ways to go about it, aren't there? How did you approach yours, and how did you feel about it? Because it can be intimidating reaching out to partners.
I think what I did when it came to networking was I had met a few people before, through various open days and insight days, and I connected with them via LinkedIn, and I sent them messages beforehand and was like, I'd love to have a coffee with you. For other people, I kind of waited until I got into the firm and had those organized networking sessions to see and meet people, and then I sent up a follow-up email if they, for example, suggested, sending them an email if you want to further chat. And I definitely took them up on that opportunity, especially because you only did get to do 2 seats on the vacation scheme. And Skadden, for example, have so many different departments. I wanted to kind of get a flavor of different seats that I was genuinely interested in. And I think that is probably my tip, is definitely try to network with lots of people, but also try to target your networking. Don't just talk to anyone and everyone for the sake of it, because I don't know if that will necessarily do you any favors.
What do you think are good networking questions?
Good networking questions. I don't know. Everyone's going to go into their vacation schemes now. We're saying these same questions. I think for me, from my perspective, the questions I was asking were very much around things that I thought were of interest to me and potentially them. I spoke to somebody from the competitions team, for example. There were a few high profile firms that were being investigated by the CMA at the time. So I assumed that would be of interest to them, but also I was genuinely interested in, what was the firm's take on this. When it came to talking to trainees, the kind of questions I was asking were definitely the kind of questions which I felt a trainee would be best placed to ask, as opposed to, a partner or associate. So, what are the hours really like? Do you get a lot of responsibility? Is it difficult to start a whole new seat? Do you get any formal training? All those sort of questions, which I feel that trainees will probably be a bit more honest, maybe, or just a little bit more, I guess, better placed to do it because they're actually going through it at the time.
How did you get the balance right between showing that enthusiasm and commitment to being a trainee in the future versus being a bit of a know-it-all and coming across as being a bit cocky?
It's definitely a difficult balance. I think how I tried to approach it was, we were given the schedule in advance. These are the talks we'll have, these are the people you met. So I did my research in advance, and for every talk or person I knew that we were going to meet, I prepared a number of questions. And my thought process was, if I can ask a question, I will ask a question, because I may only get one opportunity, but I'm not going to ask that question at all expenses. So if somebody else genuinely has a question and I've already asked 3 questions, I'm not going to be interrupting them just to get my question and for the sake of getting it in. And I think it's really about finding the balance between being respectful and being enthusiastic, because those 2 things can come into conflict, especially when it's time pressured. So you might only have 15 minutes with one person and there's 10 of you in the room. Logistically, it's just everybody can't ask a question. So I think it's kind of being respectful, but also being confident as well to ask those questions when there is the opportunity to ask them. If nobody else is willing to ask a question, it's almost disrespectful, I think, to the person who's there, because they're come and they've taken this time. We should show the enthusiasm. We should have done our preparation. They're giving up their time to speak to us.
You're absolutely right. I've done presentations, and I'll end by saying, has anyone got a question? And it's really deflating if someone doesn't. And I think, God, was I that boring? What a wasted opportunity. It's your loss here, sort of thing.
You've just made such a good impression. They're lost for words.
No, yeah, I think I love the fact that you mentioned the word respectful, because Richard Yule, who is a partner at Skadden Arps, as you know, is a really good contact of mine. I've interviewed him for CheekyLittleCareers. I asked him, what makes for a good Skadden trainee, and what he said to me I always refer back to again and again, which is, you've got to get on with these people. Imagine the long hours you would work as a city lawyer, and what you want is someone who is really keen and brilliant at what they do, and when they change seats, you're going to really miss them and be gutted that they're moving on, sort of thing. And to me, that also means being a decent colleague, so being respectful. And I think that if you and I think that's how you get the balance, making sure that you are keen and ask appropriate questions, but ensuring that other people get their time to shine. What did you find the hardest?
Because when you do an interview, it's very much, you're a set number of questions and you're going to be assessed on whatever happens in that 1 hour. When you're doing social activities, as well as networking activities, as well as group activities, and not all of it is necessarily formally assessed, and you might have, chats with your buddy or chats with your supervisor, and, you feel like you're making genuine connections. But then you're also, on the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, anything and everything I say could be, fed back to somebody. I think that was probably the hardest part.
What did you decide to do with regard to, dressing up for the occasion, so to speak?
I went with your advice, at least I think it was your advice, which is essentially you can never overdress, and it's better to kind of go in there, at least on day one, blazer, shirt, tie, read the room, and then go from there. We were fortunately beforehand given, a brief, which was essentially you don't have to wear a blazer and a tie every day. You can just wear a shirt, which was great. It really was. It was the hottest week. I can actually remember like sitting there on that first day and like cooking in my room. For me, I think most days I did end up wearing a blazer and a tie, or at least a shirt and a tie, maybe not the blazer and the tie, just because I felt like it really got me in the sort of zone. I felt professional. I felt like I was doing, a job. Whereas if I were wearing joggers, at least up my bottom half, I think I would have it almost inspires laziness in me. I know that sounds silly, but I just wanted to sort of look and feel the part.
What do you think was the single thing that you did that was the game changer for you in terms of converting that VAC scheme into a training contract?
I'd say the single most important thing probably was preparation. I think I did really prepare for that vacation scheme and all my vacation schemes. When we were given the agenda, I knew what seats I was going to be in. I knew what networking, talks we were going to have. I knew what people we were going to meet. And I made sure that I went into everything with as much information as I felt comfortable with, because at the end of the day, you can overwhelm yourself trying to learn anything and everything. But I'm the sort of person who likes to go into a situation prepared, likes to feel I have at least the foundations of knowledge so that I can ask questions that are pertinent. And I think that's really what set me up for success. And not necessarily because I needed all that information, but because I felt really comfortable therefore going into those situations. So when someone did ask me to do a task, I was like, okay, well, I have some notes on this. I can, start to do a little bit of research on this, or I've met this person, well, I have some information about this, so I can ask them a question. It almost just put me at ease. So being that sort of, that little bit of preparation just made me feel comfortable. I'd say the second thing that, and I know it's technically not the one single thing, but the second thing is just, you do really have to be yourself. Like I am genuinely like quite a social person. I like to talk to people. I like to network. I like to, engage with people. I had to do that while I was on the scheme as well. Like for me to just sit back and try to just do the work and put my head down, that's not really who I am. And if I felt like I couldn't be myself and talk to people and feel comfortable talking to people, then I knew I wouldn't be the right firm for me. So I think second to it is you just have to be yourself.
That sums things up really nicely. Thank you very much, Robert. And I wish you all the best for August when you embark on the next stage of your journey to becoming a solicitor. It's so exciting.
Thank you. And thank you for all your top tips. I'm sure half of the reason I'm here today is you. So
thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you.